All right. Man, sometimes Derek and I get just carried away talking to ourselves and forget to go live.
Yeah.
But here we
Oh
are.
well.
Here we are, and man, we are rolling with the punches with the big news. Uh,
Yeah.
is Secretary Esper stepping away? Are we really within 4,000 votes in Georgia?
1,700 now.
1,700. Jeez.
Yeah.
Rolling with this. Looking at the great Rick Grinnell, hopefully our future FBI director out there in Clark County, Nevada, fighting the good fight and having people stand up and give their testimonials about what they experienced on election day. And we're trying to piece all this stuff together. We know there could be misinformation about, right? And we always want to try to play our own devil's advocate when something comes out and somebody says this is impossible or calm yourself. We're just trying to look at the data. Obviously, they're in an age of internet information. Nobody is a firsthand source. So
Right.
we're trying to figure out how to make sense of it. And I mean, at the onset, what's so surprising is these 89% voter turnouts, right? I mean,
Yeah. And the state of Wisconsin, the entire state, 89%.
yeah, and that's not and people have been arguing, oh yeah, that makes sense. The 89% of the voting population would be voting. It's like, no. When they say voter turnout, it is registered voters, and then how many of those turned out. And yes, you have same day registrations, but you've got to look at it with, a little bit of skepticism.
Right.
Where is this coming from?
Right.
So
yeah. I think, once you start looking at, kind of the, where our, I guess, faults are right now in the system, right, with regards to Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Arizona.
Right.
First of all, you have to ask yourself. I mean, and if you're not buying into that this is a coup or this is some type of mass voter fraud, then just ask yourself one simple question: when, in the course of American history, have we, during the counting of the votes on the day of our election, just said, you know what, shutting it down, 9:30, it's 9:30. You guys have been working hard today. Stop counting. Let's just shut it down. I know by law, according to our state law, we have to report these numbers, but this is different. So let's just shut it down. You guys go home. We'll call it a night.
Right.
It's never happened.
Right. So, and then in some cases, they do that as a head fake, and then they continue to count.
Well, that's what they did. But again, I'm just starting just from the basis of just the simple questions, right? Of just saying, when has anybody ever just stopped the count? Right.
Yeah.
And when your candidate is losing the race. So we knew those were going to be swing states. We knew they're going to be vital. So just to flip it on its head, let's say the swing states of Arizona, Nevada, and North Carolina were going to be important states in 2016 for Hillary Clinton. Let's make the assumption that those three states are all run by Republican governors and Hillary Clinton is in the lead. What looks like insurmountable leads, when you just go through looking at the data that's come in so far, the amount of votes that have come in, how many votes are left by precincts reporting, and just doing the math and saying it is mathematically impossible to win. Shut it down. Our governors and election board just say, you know what, stop working, stop counting the votes. We're not going to turn them in tonight. Go home, go to sleep. You go to sleep at 3:00 in the morning going, I feel good about this. My candidate's leading, and it's by such a large number that sure, anything can happen, but dude, I feel very positive. And you wake up the next morning, hit refresh, and you're saying, how is my person down? So if you're a Democrat and you can't, under that scenario, say that would piss me off and that's not right, then you're a zombie, right? You just don't live in reality. And that's what Trump supporters are dealing with. And then also, again, as we were talking about earlier, when you're looking at this expected blue wave, we were all told Biden's up 10 in this state, he's up 5 in this state, he's up 7 in this state, and it's going to be a blue wave, and the Democrats are going to be swept into Senate. There's a great chance they're going to win the Senate now. They're going to add to their seats.
Right.
The Republicans are going to add what looks like 8 to 10 seats right now in the House. So they won seats away,
Right.
and they're going to look like they're going to hold the Senate. So if you then look down ballot, if Biden just got more votes, he can't get 12 people to come to an event, but he just got more votes than Barack Obama. He outperformed FDR, JFK, and Barack Obama in truly landslide elections that those people had. And yet you don't usher in 20, 30 new House of Representatives. You don't take the Senate by storm.
Right.
It makes no sense. It just defies logic. And that's where I think a lot of
sense in a time when people are, for the most part, mostly vote their colors, right? They vote,
sure,
hey, I'm going for Trump, and I'm going R all the way down ballot.
Right.
Definitely in this divided era, you have a lot more of that. So
right.
The fact that you have, this mutation down ballot doesn't really, speak well. And I'd love for people to show the numbers of how many ballots in aggregate, maybe per state, but you could just say nationwide, how many ballots where people are maybe low info voters and they don't, I know a lot of people who will vote for candidates, but they won't vote for propositions. And it's sort of
correct.
Like, they don't want to do the research on it. Why not?
Right.
Okay. You don't vote down ballot. Right. But I'd love to know the stats, and it would be something that I think would be easy to do without giving away personal information. How many times do you have the president selected and the rest of the ballot blank?
Right. Well, in Pennsylvania, you have 200,000 ballots of just the president selected with no other dots, no other vote.
I'm sorry, if you're cheating, at least make it look like a concerted effort to make a ballot choice as an individual.
And so then you have, again, and then you have the Wisconsin thing, right, where you had, Trump's leading, and then all of a sudden you get, or Michigan rather, all of a sudden you get 138,000 dump, and all 138,000 goes for one client or one candidate.
Right.
So you do have people that say, well, you put them all in a bucket, right? You put them all in a certain bucket, and that's Biden's bucket, or that's Trump's bucket, or whatever. But that doesn't happen. I mean, you talk to any pollster or any person that's worked a campaign, you're like, can it happen? It's possible. It's not probable, right? And another thing, and there's no errors on those ballots, right? None of them were thrown out. 138,000 went in. All 138,000 were counted. So they were perfect ballots, right? I mean, again, every single election, you have 2 to 3% of ballots that are thrown out. So they didn't have 2 or 3% of those 138,000. 100% of them were cleared and went through the system, and all 100% were for Joe Biden. So, I mean, it's, again, does 90% of every single vote that comes in, that you need 79% to win. You exceed that at 86%.
Right.
To then take over and take such a monumental lead now they're saying, well, we just might as well call it for Michigan. There's no shot. So, I mean, again, you have statistical anomalies that just don't make any sense. And that's where people just need to ask themselves. And look, I don't think you're going to find any.
If the shoe was on the other foot, it
correct.
would be outrage.
Right. And if you don't, I mean, if you're a person who believes in free and fair elections, right? If you're watching a football game and, you see an instant replay or a play that needs to be instant replayed. Look, we all hate the fact that there's instant replays. It just slows down the momentum of the game, but you want them to get it right.
Sure.
So, but what happens if then they go and referee? They go to the cameras or go to the tape, and they come out and still make the same call. When you're sitting there looking at it, going, "Dude, he clearly dropped the ball," or whatever it may be.
Right.
That's the kind of what you're living through right now, because you're watching the replay happen. These guys, when you board up windows and kick people out, right? When Republicans have to go into Pennsylvania today and file an injunction just so that their people can go in and do what they're allowed to do, right, by law, be 6 feet away,
right? And
they get the injunction. The Commonwealth Court says, yes, that's okay. The Democrats immediately file to the Supreme Court and say, nope, we don't want it. We're just going to stop counting then. Why would you stop counting? If you're not doing anything wrong, why not have somebody there 6 feet away?
That's
right.
If
you're the Supreme Court and you're a 5-2 in favor of Democrats, why do you then say, yeah, we're not going to allow it. We're going to if they don't want to have Republicans in, they don't need to have Republicans in.
Right.
If I cheated on an exam, or you blame me for cheating on an exam, let's walk through my answers. Let me show you where I didn't cheat. Perfect. Sit down with me. Let's go through it. So if you're not cheating, then let everybody see. Where's the Democrats always talk about transparency. Well, then if you believe in transparency, then let everybody see it, right? Let everybody be able to watch.
Show us how you're doing a signature match.
Right.
I mean, look, just some of the viral videos we've seen today, right, is the McCafferty guy in Philly saying, look, I'm a Democrat. Here I am. I'm telling you, there's this corruption at the highest level. We're seeing, people saying that I was mailed a ballot that was stolen from me. And then I showed up at the election,
right,
at my polling place, and I wasn't allowed to vote because they said they mailed you a ballot. All these situations where one vote, one voice.
Right.
We have to look at all those and we have to say, okay, is this a real situation, or is this a deep fake? Did somebody kind of create this on their own and turn it into a viral video by getting a few accounts to it? I mean, we're able to look at that with healthy skepticism. But the combination of that, and the fact is, I was searching back through some old tweets from May and June, and we were saying this. I mean, we were noticing that this was going to be an all mail-in system. We said this is ripe with fraud. This is why third world countries don't do it.
Right.
This is an invitation for complete nonsense and disaster.
Right.
And so for us, I know it doesn't help to say, well, I told you so, because it wasn't ample time to develop a new system.
Right.
It was going to have some sort of checksum in place that evaluated, all right, this can be done.
Right.
But here we are. Our worst fears are coming true.
Yeah.
And we need a decisive election. It's not unity for people to say, calm down, every vote will be counted, even the ones that come in these huge troves.
Right.
And it's not calming for us to have even people who are Republicans say, okay, let's move on. I mean, think about how long after the 2000 election it took for Republicans to create moveon.org and say, we're moving on from this and we're moving into new territory in terms of future activism. And here we are capitulating less than 48 hours.
Well, and that's the struggle that I think we're gonna be in. And I know you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Our problem is, and you're hearing this now about, like you said, the unity thing. Let's all come together after this. You don't lay in a den of vipers and not expect to be bit. They're going to devour you.
Yeah.
And so the problem that Republicans have is they just feel like, all right, okay, we lost. Let's like you see Chris Christie last night or whatever, saying, look, he shouldn't come out and said what he said when Trump got up and said, this is going to be a contested election or whatever. We're going to go to the Supreme Court. He knows the end game. He knows exactly where it's going, right? But then to sit there and have the Democrats then say, oh, you guys don't want to count every vote? I'm like, no, we want to count every legal vote. Absolutely, 100%. If it's free and fair, then 100% we want the votes to count.
Right.
But what we don't want is exactly what Trump said at 4 a.m. You just got all of a sudden ballots just showing up, right? It's like nobody and they weren't allowing watchers in. They had no sheriffs there to secure it, right? The only sheriffs that were there were not allowing Republicans in, right? Which is just devious in and of itself. But what we have to start to understand is that they have a set of rules. We have a set of rules that we expect them to play by. They play by their own set of rules. Right. And until we want to get dirty, and again, we always get labeled Christians and God, and would Jesus act this way or whatever, dude. Again, like we talked about earlier, God prepared his army and sent them in to battle. He didn't say just sit back, suck on your lollipops, make your, roast your marshmallows around the fire pit, and I'll take care of everything for you. You had to get dirty. You had to get bloody. And if you're going to fight them on their turf, you have to go in with your swords drawn and be ready to get bloody. And that's the way they force us to acquiesce.
Yeah.
By appealing to our better self. Oh, come on, we need to heal. Dude, you guys didn't heal after 2016. It has been a nonstop coup for 4 years.
That's right.
So why should we stop, in my opinion? Why should conservatives just say, okay, yeah, you're right, let's go heal? The devil's going to eat you.
Well, even especially when doing the right thing is easy in some cases. I mean, I think Rick Grinnell made the point today. He was like, "Look, these 3,600 votes or whatever was referred to Barr for,
All right, for out of Nevada, yeah,
as being out of staters." And I anecdotally, I mean, I talked about this during the 2016 election. I had Uber drivers who said, "Yeah, voting and then going straight to Nevada and going to vote," and like, yeah,
right,
super fired up for Clinton. I mean, just outright telling a total stranger,
right,
"Oh yeah,
that you're going to vote
I'm
twice.
here." Or remember, I told you the story of, I was in Richmond for the weekend at a nice event, and they had everybody with clipboards doing voter registration, and they said, "Hey, register to vote." I said, "I'm no longer registered here. I'm registered in California." And they said, "That's okay. You can register here too." And I'm
Yeah,
like, "No, that's illegal." And they're like,
right,
"No, you totally can. We have a lot of people from other states." I'm like, and I'm thinking, okay, my vote means nothing in California
right,
for Trump, but my vote would mean something here in Virginia. And
right,
I could have easily gone, "Oh, come on. It's a felony, but who's going to know?"
right,
And I say, "Okay, give me the clipboard. I'm voting for Trump." And the clipboard comes right
right,
back
yeah,
like this,
all
right?
right,
So we've seen, so just show, when we have these anecdotal incidents, and then it's easy enough to do the right thing. I mean, journalists should be doing their job and saying, "Okay, interesting. These people, this person who was born in 1850,
right,
it
yeah,
voted." And for people to show a video of themselves going to the Secretary of State website and say,
right,
"Oh, let me put in this
yeah.
this
We,
address, this address."
yeah, William Bradley. He got a ballot sent to him on September 11th. His application was received. The ballot went out on the 19th. They sent it. They received it on the 2nd of October,
Right.
and so I assume it was counted. Right. Unfortunately, William Bradley died in 1984 at 82 years old.
I saw that same guy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and look,
Now it could be deep
we,
fake, right? I mean, you can do that. I don't know. I mean, we could
sure,
ascertain.
sure, yeah, of
I mean,
course you can do it.
you
But
can,
what I think is remarkable is that what we just learned in this is that Michigan and this one specific area has the highest number of over 100-year-olds in the entire world. I mean, some of these guys are 117 years old. You would think that we would want to go out and interview them and be like, "Hey, you lived through this biggest pandemic in the history in the last 150 years. How'd you survive the Spanish flu?"
I
Right?
did,
We need to get you on camera, right? It's like, how did you
in
walk
cold
through it?
weather,
What are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing right now that is so wrong? Right?
right?
It's like you lived through true fascism, fighting fascism under Nazi Germany. Like, how did you experience World War II? Like, what were you working the Ford lines, right? Building tanks? I mean, Michigan, the Detroit News should be up there in front of these people's houses, being like, "Dude, we're going to give you guys parties," but yet they're dead and they're voting,
And we're just
right?
going along with it, and we're okay with it. And I'm noticing a lot of the people saying, the number of people who are on, in Biden's camp, and they're saying, "Listen, right now, unfriend me if you voted for Trump."
Right,
And in many cases, they're back to the racist meme,
right, yeah,
or racist trope, and it's like we haven't had turnout of non-white community for Republicans since, like, what was it, 1960, or is it
the largest non-white turnout for a Republican for president in 60 years.
in
Yet, and this is what
years?
again, and this is another interesting thing. He was up 80% to Trump this is in the states that Trump won. He
Yeah.
won an increase of black vote by 80%. Right, he went from about 8 to about 15% in most states, almost a double. 80% with blacks, up 40% with Latinos, up
Yep.
55% with Jews in the states he won. The states they lost, zero increase on all fronts. That is statistically impossible.
That's right.
And so, I mean, those are the things that make you scratch your head saying, and again, I just keep coming back to Joe Biden, who nobody is enthused about. Nobody went to a rally of his, right? If you did, you were paid, right? You're either a Jeep, you work for a Jeep dealership, right? And so they're sending you out there so you can park your Jeeps out there, everybody can see it. But he won 73 million votes, the largest vote in the history of the country. Joe Biden got.
Well,
You're
okay, but
out
he was the
of
guy on the ballot, and people were out. You know,
no, he was, well, exactly, but he was the guy on the mail-in ballots,
yeah,
because I sincerely doubt that 55 to 60 million people stood in line over an hour, 30 minutes or an hour to vote for Joe Biden.
yeah,
If you went to a rally of his in 37-degree weather, right, and it was raining, you stood in line for the 6 hours to vote. Again, man, it's at some point, Mike, the entire country has to use common sense. And I know there's common sense isn't common anymore, right? And again, everything's racism, everything's sexism, everything's Islamophobic or whatever. But at some point, you have to actually put your thinking cap on and critical thinking skills and say to yourself, how does he get 73 million votes when, again, no House seat pickups, right? They picked up 2, but as far as net, right? They're going to lose 8 House seats. They're going to flip to get 2 Senate seats, right? But that's because we're losing 2, or we're gaining 2, losing 2. So essentially nothing. So if James holds his seat, Perdue holds his seat, and then when Loeffler gets in, because she'll win the Senate seat, it's going to be 53-47. So it's going to be the same number. So if there was this huge blue wave and 73 million people came out to vote, it should have been a massive blue wave, but it wasn't. So again, just put the pieces of the puzzle together. At some point, we have to start doing that, and we have to stop watching media tell us what is going on, because they're going to tell you their narrative, and they're going to steer you where they want you to go.
Well, they're already trying to get us.
And Fox News is the same way. I mean, when I'm seeing people say CNN was the most conservative news network that night, and Fox was one of the most far left, that tells you right there that they're part of the enemy, right? They're there to indoctrinate and influence and not inform.
Yeah.
And so that's, we were talking about this earlier. The coup is the entire system. It's not the Democrats or whatever. It's not the deep state. Trump is up against the entire system, and that includes the media, clearly, as we know now, but it also includes a lot of members of his own party.
Yeah.
It includes the Chris Christies. It includes the Mitt Romneys. It includes, in my opinion, the Lindsey Grahams, right? There's so much dirt that is on them. They don't want us knowing, so they don't want him winning again. I mean, they had to suck it up and live with it for 4 years, but when you're not seeing the leader of the Senate come out right now in defense of Donald Trump and all this stuff that's going on and be like, look, I've been in politics for as long as Joe Biden, and I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen where you've got a lead with 94% of the precincts in, and you're up by 300,000 votes, and all of a sudden you're down by 150,000.
Right. And he usually he's able to establish the narrative. I mean, he was able to do that at the end of the Kavanaugh hearings. That was his best moment. He all of a sudden got a lot of credit with Republicans for being able to, do the the unfrozen Iceman, caveman lawyer, caveman lawyer, the old Hartman skit where he's like, hey, hold on a second. And that's what we need. We need someone to go like, hold on. This is the data. This is statistically not possible to happen. And people are, fired up. I mean, Maria Bartiromo is carrying water for this. And so she's part of Fox, but she's Fox Business, and she's getting excoriated on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
For carrying this narrative, but it has to be carried. I mean, this is why we're doing this podcast. We are in an emperor's new clothes moment where the 6-year-old kid has to say, guys, this guy's not wearing any clothes. And then you have to say, wait, a 6-year-old can't be a fool. He's born a kid. He has no chance to be a fool yet. Right. Oh,
but he's got no filter, right? He's just going to speak his mind.
Filter. So we're sitting there and we're trying to be that. And that's, everyone needs to be that. We don't, there's a difference between conceding an election and saying, look, I really want to make sure it's done right. And you know what? Even if we had flipped it, we would do it for you. I mean, we were on the same.
Dude, if you won free and fair, count every vote. I mean, yes. I would have to count them 3 times. Right. If Donald Trump won in 2016 and he won it fair and square, do a vote on everybody, right? Recount everybody. I mean, what I say we do, right? It's common sense now. Have Trump come out and say, you know what? We're going to reissue ballots. right? We're going to send them to the states that are in question right now. So we're going to go to Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada. Brand new election, right? If you are someone who is scared to death of COVID, then we were going to send a Democrat and a Republican to your house, right? So you put in the petition, you volunteer and say, hey, I want somebody to come to the house, right? You go send someone there, give you a ballot. You go in your house for 10 minutes alone, fill the ballot out, whatever. You come out, there's one box, put it in that box. We carry it, both of us carry it back to the precinct together, right? So it never leaves our sight. We're in the car together. We're going to, otherwise send everybody else to their precincts that they normally vote in. Bring an ID, show who you are, right? You're on the registration rolls. Because what we just learned is the polls were BS. We now know the polls lied. So now that we know the polls lied, then the vote should come out the way it just came out. So let's actually send those people back to the polls and say, vote again. We have a month. You don't have to.
Which states would you do it in? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. The ones that are currently in contention. So Georgia, North
Nevada,
Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada.
Yeah.
We have a month that you have to certify results till December 14th, I think, either the 12th or the 14th.
Yeah,
it's November 5th.
That's when the electors get sent. I mean, so you certify the results a month after, and then
they have, right, but they have to be certified by the 14th. That's what we went through. That's why in 2000 with SCOTUS, they had to do something because the electorate had to go there at that time. So that state had to verify the results. So if we have until December 14th, we really have till January 6th, right? But if you had to be there by January 4th or December 14th, then we have over a month to plan this. We only have a certain amount of states. Let's reprint the ballots, right? Doing that should take 10 hours.
Right.
Reprint the ballots, put the envelopes, go back out, submit it onto a system, say, hey, everybody in this world knows that this election is contested right now. It's not like you're all of a sudden going to find somebody sitting in this house going, oh, I had no idea that we were going to recount and revote. Right.
Well, can we point out that at this moment, obviously, the people who are most enraged right now are Republicans because we're feeling like we had a clear trajectory and these ballot totals aren't adding up. But I'm not hearing about violence, right? Because the boarding up of the cities was ostensibly for the Proud Boys versus Antifa, right?
Right.
So I think if we can run a controlled experiment here, if new information was to come out that would demonstrate that through a legal challenge or clearly just through new results that Trump has won, say they call Arizona for Trump, right? And flip that over,
right?
And we're starting to see this thing. If we see violence, then can we safely assume that the violence is clearly? I mean, we know that violence is coming.
We know who it's coming from.
We know it's coming from. But so can we quit this facade, this charade that's saying, we have far right, we have white supremacist extremists that are in this thing. And also, did we talk about the Muslim vote for Trump? I mean, in all of these non-white demographics,
I mean,
meteoric success for the Republican ticket. So but I haven't heard about violence, right? I heard somewhere they were saying something's happening in New York City.
Well, in DC, there's been 3 stabbings. A black woman got stabbed in the back twice by Antifa people. So these were pro-Trump supporters. So three pro-Trump supporters have been stabbed. Of course, you've seen that one guy that was on was it Glenn Beck's or whatever for the Blaze? Had his teeth knocked out or whatever. Front of his face, a white guy. So, I mean, the violence is coming from the left. Sure, the media tells you it's coming from the right. And I love the argument of, well, even Christopher Wray says that it's, white supremacy is the number one threat to in America. I'm like, dude, Christopher Wray's a joke. I mean, just call it what it is. I mean, the guy's a joke, right? He's there as part of the media apparatus to feed them what they want because they need us divided.
Well, and I, as like we always like to talk about, free speech and censorship. I think, we got to note that today, Steve Bannon's Twitter was taken away from the sheer fact that he said, "I want to see Fauci's head on a pike and raised head
Well,
on a pike. And he was, of course, saying that he was alluding to, you know, medieval times, the way in which treason was handled.
right. Yeah.
He wasn't literally saying that. Meanwhile, how many times do we have to see Kathy Griffin with
Oh yeah. With an actual.
bloody head
Yeah.
dripping in
Right.
her you know, in the follow on to the 2016 election. I just think
Right.
it's
Dude,
totally disingenuous that
well, you know what
everybody and everything as a result of this.
what I'm what I remain optimistic on about this thing is that one, it was all a plan in some way, shape, or form, right? To expose the evil that is there. That's all that a lot of us know exists, and
Right.
we've been just salivating for other people to see it.
Yeah.
That it's being exposed now, because again, you can't sit there in good faith as just a normal, rational human being and say what had just happened, what we are living through 24 hours since the election, since election day, has been normal, right? Has been humbling. It's been upstanding, right? No, it hasn't. So once you start from that premise, then you can have a conversation with rational individuals, and then you can start looking at, all right, how do we solve this then, right? How do you go through with the current ballots and say, all right, these ballots get thrown out, these ballots get counted? That's the difficulty, but that's where we got to start from, because if
it's definitely the price of unity. It's
right.
the price of unity.
Yeah.
What does it take? I mean, you have special elections all the time. It's not like it has to be nationwide. It can be done in the
just those 8 states, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% of the states, right? You go to the state. I mean, Alaska hasn't finished their ballot count yet. They got like 7 people. Okay. How can you not? I mean, no offense, Alaska, but how can you not count and certify your vote already? How does North Carolina? This is amazing. North Carolina has the #1 medical school in the country now at UNC. They have the research triangle with some of the smartest people on the entire planet, and they can't count their votes. They gave their vote counters off until November 12th. That is freaking insane.
What was the reason for that? That delay? A whole why are they all taking a vacation?
There was I don't know if there was an excuse given other than just we want to draw this thing out as long as possible. How does Florida, which everybody knew was going to be a hotly contested battleground state with 29 electoral votes, how are they able to wake up at 9 and get to the polls at 8:30 or 9, start counting every ballot, take every ballot, certify their ballots that night, and have a clear winner? But Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania can't?
Well, ostensibly the argument for Florida is that they were counting as they came in. So from October 5th to the day they were
Florida, you're not allowed to. You can't touch the ballots. Ohio, you can't touch the ballots until election day.
I mean, they're Scantron for a reason. Don't you remember?
Right. Exactly.
We was back in the,
right.
I'll date myself, in the 80s.
But then
going to school, you would fill in the bubbles and
run it through the machine.
You would know what score you got on the test, 3 minutes after you handed in it.
Right.
And everybody got it back and it was like, all right, cool. That's it.
And how do you, in Pennsylvania, you wake up this morning and all of a sudden they have 750,000 more ballots. They had no idea. So they verified to like people like the People's Pundit. They verified to the people counting the ballots that there was only 400,000 or something left to count.
Right.
All of a sudden this morning, like, oh, damn it, wouldn't you know? Another 750,000 absentee ballots we have just completely forgot about. No, that doesn't happen. So again, they're either lying or they're making up stuff as they go along and expecting that we're going to take it. You don't just come up with 750,000 ballots all of a sudden out of nowhere. I mean, the voter fairy just dropped them off like, oh, overnight while you slept, because you were a good soul, here's 750,000 more ballots. It makes no sense.
Well, I mean, you saw what happened with the Tea Party in 2010.
Yeah,
there is nothing. I mean, I don't know the extent to which, I mean, at this level of exposure of the system, as you say,
yeah, the system's just out of it.
Not see, I don't see how, because this is our only chance to fight. We can deal with the endless slings and arrows from the media coming at us saying, and we don't want to deal with it, but like, oh, you're racist and you're
Right.
and you just care about your pocketbook. I mean, like, look, we are now the party of the working class, and the elite party, you know, they out fundraise us by an order of magnitude.
Right.
And then they sit here and moralize us. And we've endured all that, but the only thing you can actually take action on is to vote.
Right.
The vote it's the one day you can take action and make a difference.
Right.
And now you're going to take that away from us too.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, come on, guys.
Well, and that's the other thing too, with all these House races, Soros and the Democrats spent and not House races, but actual state legislatures, right? Which the Republicans, again, if there's this huge blue wave, Republicans are looking like they're going to pick up 3 additional state legislature houses, right? So we had 59 of 99 coming in. Looks like we're going to hold 59 for sure. We may get up to 62. So if the states are staying controlled by the Republicans, again, if you were going to see this huge blue wave, they would have been taken over. They didn't get taken over. But in those races, just for the state houses, Democrats spent $500 million. Republicans, $60 million. And they held them all. So
unbelievable. I mean, just shows you.
They are trying their best to influence as much as they possibly can.
It's a great stat. That's a great stat.
Let me see if I don't know if I can share my screen here, but this was, am I able to share the screen?
Yeah, you can add it to the.
Okay, let me do this real quick.
Just do the middle button.
All right. So this is something that I saw today on Twitter. Can you see that?
Hasn't shown up yet on my. You're doing the restream button.
I've just got to share the screen, but let me see.
It's not showing it.
There you go.
No, I'm not seeing it yet.
Yeah, it still says my screen share is struck through. So I don't know if on your end or something, I'm not allowed to do it. Usually I don't have a problem with it.
Once you click it, you have to say whether you're showing just an application window or a piece of your.
I'm showing my computer. Yeah, I've never had a problem doing that, but unfortunately I'm now. Anyway, 2020 absentee voting and it gave basically the states that are hotly contested, or we knew it was going to be hotly contested coming in. Pennsylvania, absentee voting advantage, percentage to Biden. He won the absentee votes in Pennsylvania by 58%. Michigan, 38%. Ohio, 15%. No other state. Arizona was 8%, Georgia 5%, Minnesota 5%, North Carolina 4.5%, Florida 1.3%. Pennsylvania is going to be 50-50 in the total vote count.
Total votes. So
how do you win 58% of all absentee ballots if the state as a whole went 50-50? Again, mathematically impossible.
Well, you could say that people are more scared of COVID. Democrats have been more scared of COVID.
But that's mail-in ballots, not absentee ballots. Absentee ballots almost always break exactly as the state does. You may be a couple percentage points off.
Yeah.
Right. So they may come back 52-47 and it goes 49, 50-49.
Right.
But not 58% and not 38%. So that's telling you something there. And that's the source was the New York Times. So you had that going. Then you have another thing here that just, again, this is the kind of stuff that just blows me away. Allegheny, looking at 2016 vote totals to 2020 and the increase from Hillary Clinton to Biden for Democrat votes. So Allegheny County, for example, which is Pittsburgh, they had an 8% increase. Bucks County, 11%, Chester, 15.5%. Dane County, which is Wisconsin, was basically all these that are the major big cities, like Phil. And like I said earlier, I don't know if we covered on this program, Biden lost ground. He underperformed in every major metropolitan city in the country except 4: Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and what was the last one? Detroit.
Just the opportunities for mass fraud.
Right. So, but in Cuyahoga County, right, strong Democrat stronghold. He underperformed, -2.2%. Delaware County, Pennsylvania, -2.8%. Hamilton, Ohio, negative 0.01. Montgomery, Ohio, negative 0.5. But Macomb, Michigan, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Kent, Michigan, up 19%, up 15%, up 17%. Again, mathematically impossible. It is in. You're going to see, if you see an uptick of 3% in your biggest counties, you're going to see an uptick of about roughly the same percent in the rest of the counties.
Right.
Now, another key thing here and Steve Deace was showing this.
Sentiment equalizes. Yeah.
Yeah. Steve Deace was showing this on his program today, talking about Dane County. Dane County, Wisconsin's second largest county, reported an 85% voter turnout in a county that added just under 50,000 voters in the last decade. Yet Milwaukee County, the largest county in the state, only reported a 67% turnout. So the county that made the difference in this election, right? The county where the 138 or the 23,000 ballots, whatever showed up that all went for Biden, underperforms another county in the same state right next to it by 18%. No, doesn't happen.
No.
Then you had, what was it? Wisconsin.
You can't just interview those election officials and get them to understand. I mean, I'm not going to give up the ruse, but I mean, are they going to?
Well, that's what what you have to hope for in all of this, for it to make sense, right? Is for some of these poll workers to come out and be like, look, yes, I voted for Biden, right? Or what, but dude, what was happening here is fraud, right? I mean, you would hope that they would wake up one day with a conscience and say, I've got to speak out about this. I mean, the one thing that I do with the people who are taking the videos of them, whether they were at the TCF Center or whatever it is in Detroit, the one in that you saw some people doing, the poll workers in Philadelphia or whatever, is that at least now you have them on video and them saying, I'm a Democrat voter, or I did this or whatever, but I'm a poll worker or whatever. That at least now you have them on videos. Now you can go subpoena them and say, all right, now we'll get you under oath. Because everybody's saying right now, it's a video. Like, how do you know they're not a Republican? Like the guy in Philadelphia, that was like, dude, so you're in Philadelphia, but you're wearing a Miami Dolphins hat. Like, what's that have to do with it, right? It's like, I can live in another state.
You got to find out, right?
Yeah. But it's like, go find him, put him under oath. If he says the same thing under oath, knowing he's got he'll serve a federal term if he's lying.
He lies,
it's like, if he's telling you that, hey, I'm a poll worker, I'm a vote counter, right? I'm supposed to be someone watching these votes and I'm seeing the fraud and he can attest to it and what happened, then now you've got your proof, right? But to just sit there and discount somebody because they're putting something on video and it's just going viral doesn't mean it's not true, doesn't make it true, but doesn't mean it's not true.
But it's
so then go and get those people in.
It's correct. Get in there and ask the question. And why are no journalists doing it? I mean, I'm surprised the journalists aren't just all over the place going, let's interview, let's find out, let's see what's because it's a broken system because they want it to be broken, because pull the wool over our eyes. Right.
Well, they just because what they've been able to count on, and if you read that Transition to Integrity Project, which we should post it on our site.
Yeah.
It's a 19 to 20 page document, right? But it goes through each scenario to play out. And it starts talking about how well before the election, the media it's incumbent upon the media to go out and start talking about the voter fraud and saying it doesn't exist, right? Very, very rarely does it ever happen. Yeah, you get a guy that maybe fills out 2 ballots or whatever, fills out one for his dead mom, but they're constantly putting that out there in the world now, so that when it does happen, you're like, come on, man, it just maybe 7 votes here, 2 votes there, whatever. By the way, there was, I think it was
equal out. That's the other. Oh well,
it equals out.
It happens on both sides, so that that's a negligent effect.
Right. But I think there was in New Hampshire, it was either New Hampshire or Connecticut, but one of the small states up in the Northeast, there were actually 2 elections that were decided by 1 vote. So every vote absolutely matters. If you don't think it does, go to those people and say, well, look, we're going to give that 1 vote then to the other guy and see what you think, right? So there were 2 elections voted that came down to 1 vote. So, I mean, again, if we're going to get this under control, we have to at least start with the basis of saying, let's prove that every single person that voted is, 1, still alive. If they died after they sent their ballot in, at least we can show they were alive at the time they sent their ballot in. Then fine, let's let it count, right?
Sure.
But let's prove that you exist. I mean, your voter ID, you're about to have a medical ID, right? If Biden gets in, we're going to have medical ID cards as we travel around the world showing that we're medically and, we've got our vaccines or whatever.
Exactly.
So why can't you have a voter ID card?
Exactly.
If you're not afraid of that. So, I mean, again, common sense at some point has to set in, Mike. And that's my problem with all of this stuff is that all you hear from the other side is, dude, you're just throwing conspiracy theories at this. Why does someone need an ID? Like, what, you don't just trust them? No, I don't trust them, right? We're watching it happen right in front of our eyes. And we're not going to take it laying down. And I wouldn't expect the other side. If Trump was stealing the election from Biden, watch this. If all of a sudden Arizona flips for Trump, Nevada goes for Trump, if he holds on to Georgia and it comes down to Pennsylvania and he just says, we're going to do a recount in Wisconsin, but screw it, I don't even need Wisconsin. If I can hold on to Pennsylvania and all of a sudden we find out that 130,000 votes or whatever the difference is was wrong and it goes back to Trump, you want to watch and see if Democrats say, oh yeah, we counted every vote, so let's move on.
Right, exactly.
Not a chance in hell.
Right.
They're going to demand, let's go. There's got to be cheating involved.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are you going to be live in a double standard and be a hypocrite, right? Or do you want to just come, have a meeting of the minds, and let's make this thing work for the next election? Let's make it work in this election, and let's put in place a system that rules going forward that we both agree on. And that first one comes to voter ID. You have to prove who you are and have a watermark on a ballot or whatever. I think you're seeing some stuff flowing around the internet now on Twitter and stuff about supposedly the ballots all had watermarks on them. And so this has all been a setup to begin with, right? I don't know if that's true, right? I mean, I do know there's barcodes and stuff on them so I can track them. But if there are watermarks, and let's say there was 170 million people or 150 million people that requested ballots or we thought were going to vote, and now we're up to 160 million total ballots. If those other 10 got printed, right, and doesn't have the watermark on them, then you throw those out. They're not official ballots. So that right away you can say, okay, if you printed 150 million by DHS and there's 10 million more, we throw those 10 million out because they didn't come from the DHS. So those were just made up. You just printed them at FedEx, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that till today, the CISA website. I don't know if you call it KISA.
Right. Yeah,
and so that they are, I didn't realize that DHS was involved in
federal election.
They're involved in cybersecurity for the voting machines.
Right.
I didn't know that they had some sort of checksum measure to validate the. But I've seen a lot of circulation about watermarks. Watch the watermarks.
Right.
And so it's curious, but you don't want to chase something down that you're not sure about.
Right. Well, I've got another tidbit here of information I did find online today. So there's a company called Avid Technology, and Avid Technology is they're the electoral system vote counter, right? So they are the machine. So when you put in a scan, that what gets tabulated or whatever is done by Avid Technology. They provide the software for it. Lo and behold, Dianne Feinstein's husband, Bloom, through Bloom Strategic GP, they own 2.7 million and 2.292283 million shares, securities acquired amount 2.7 million and 2.3 million on April 7th of this year. So
Avid, AVID?
AVID Technology Inc. This is Edgar. So
this is not to be confused with Pro Tools Avid.
No, Avid Technology Inc. They're publicly traded. You can go to sec.gov, go to Edgar, right? The Edgar reports. You can type in Avid Technology. You put in Bloom or Feinstein. Feinstein won't show up, whatever. So you put in Bloom, and it comes up. So they're listed 909 Montgomery Street, San Francisco. But common stock, they have four. They noted they put down four of them. The amount of securities beneficially owned following the transaction: 820,000 shares, 695,000 shares, 39,000 shares, and 21 shares. So Feinstein's husband, and so that means Feinstein, right, through their strategic partners, Bloom Capital Partners and Bloom Strategic GP, they own roughly $5 million, exactly $5 million worth of this stock. And that's the vote counting system.
All right. This is
So
madness. This is madness. All right. So
just-
we gotta follow on tomorrow. We need new news. We need
we're gonna have plenty of news coming out. So you'll find out more vote totals. Arizona will be decided tomorrow. Well, here's the thing: is what I think is going to happen. They're pushing to get Pennsylvania done, right?
Okay.
So they can say it's in the Biden camp, right? Once they do that, the media will close down and say, all right, the election is over, right? It's not up to the media, right? It's up to the states, the states to verify, right, and say who the winner is.
Right.
What the media is going to do is now they're going to be able to go out and pound the table, saying, all right, Trump supporters, get over it. It's over. He's won the election. Move on. Let's all come together. And they're going to be on to the next thing, which is make sure that Trump's going to leave office, right? So they're going to turn the tide and say he's going to go for Insurrection Act and all this other stuff. So that's going to be their push now, is to get him out. And so just to turn the corner, make him a lame duck president as quickly as possible. You're already seeing it from Anderson Cooper and all these jokers, whatever. So that their push is going to be to have this thing called tomorrow, even though North Carolina is not counting their votes until the 12th. Alaska still hasn't verified theirs, right? They haven't even finished counting. Georgia's still coming up. They're still finding ballots. I think they found some in the gutter today that all went to Biden.
Of course.
So yeah. So all these things are just, all these manipulations are going on. So tomorrow should be it's a Friday. And what do we always get on Friday? We get Friday dumps, right? Yeah. So
some news, and then let's
and we can talk about the Vigano letter tomorrow as well, because he put out a new letter today. Actually, it went out yesterday.
Powerful letter.
Archbishop Vigano.
All right, my brother.
All right, man.
I will see you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Everybody.
Thank you.